Well, can AI make us better communicators and leaders? To talk about that, I'm joined by Allison Shapira. She's an executive advisor and keynote speaker. Allison, thank you so much for doing this.
Linda, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
You know, AI is the topic of the year. I'm asking every guest about it, even if they're not involved in it. So lots to talk about here. I always like to start, though, with asking my guests about their own careers, what they've done, and what brought them to being specialists in the topic we're talking about today.
My first career path was training to be an opera singer. So I started on stage performing for audiences, and that was really my introduction to stage presence, which I then turned into executive presence. And when I left the music world and started as a speechwriter advising leaders on their communication, I realized my background as a singer actually made me a very good speaker and an even better coach because of that detailed eye and ear I had to develop in order to perform on stage.
Well, that's interesting. So you have this company and you work with leaders primarily, correct?
Correct. Usually leaders moving into new senior positions.
Go ahead. Okay.
And what they find is as they move into those senior positions, what got them into those roles to begin with was their subject matter expertise and their relationships. And then as they move into those senior roles, they realize they need clarity and brevity, and they need the strategy to learn how to choose the right message for the right audience and not fall apart during Q&A. And so those were the skills that I started helping leaders build so that then they could be more confident in these new senior roles.
You know, I find this interesting. I'm a keynote speaker primarily, and speaking doesn't scare me after so many years, but so many people are intimidated by it. So, what level can you get to without being a confident speaker? It seems to me they must have to get this under control fairly early in their careers.
It's really about having the right process that they can fall back on, because what I find is leaders are used to being good at something. And so they've built this skill set over hours and their career. With speaking, they may not have invested in a process that they know works for them. So they tend to over prepare, waste their time, and not actually achieve the level of competency that they want. So my goal is not to turn them into professional speakers. That's not their goal. My goal is to give them a process that they can reliably fall back on that builds their confidence so that they can simply show up as their best selves on stage instead of their nervous, overthinking self.
So, when you say process, this year we have to talk about the process including artificial intelligence, AI. And I can imagine, as it is with students and lots of people, it becomes a tool that people over rely on. Are you seeing that?
I'm absolutely seeing that. I'm seeing that in the emails people send me that all look the same. I'm seeing that in LinkedIn posts that are all following the exact same formatting. And I was culpable of that myself when I started to use AI to polish the posts that I was writing. But then when I realized that that format was repeated across all the people I knew in my network, I thought, this is a problem. This has stopped being easy to read and has just become cookie cutter. And so my goal is to give leaders a framework that they can use to use AI. There are incredible efficiencies possible with it, and to ensure that the human stays not just in the loop, but the human starts and ends the loop in terms of how they're using AI.
Well, let's talk about how that works. You have a leader, maybe he's new to his job, she's new to her job. They have to give a big presentation talking about the things they know about, but also maybe talking more broadly or using different skills. How is AI going to help them?
There are some very easy ways that we use AI, which can be to give us ideas to address a topic for a specific audience. What values might this audience relate to? What should I be aware of in this particular industry? And then we can use tools to do research for us. Of course, we also have to validate that the research it comes back with is accurate, but there are still a lot of efficiencies in the brainstorming use of AI. The unique use cases that I like to tap into are when we use AI to bring out our authenticity. So we can put a message into an AI tool and have it find the jargon that we're using that we don't even realize. or we can share some of our values and our core beliefs with that AI tool and then say, help me humanize this message because I'm defaulting to corporate jargon. So the AI can actually bring out our humanity if we use it correctly.
And how would you do that? Because I think there must be a temptation to just use it as maybe even have it write a speech for you.
That's right. I do not recommend having AI write the first draft of your speech because when I work with leaders, my goal is to help them bring that knowledge out from within. And when you outsource that first draft to AI, it takes more time to put it in your voice and it's harder to remember as well, because when it comes from you, you're internalizing it as you write it. So what I recommend is putting a first draft into an AI tool and then asking it to give it your values as well and say, here are some of the elements that are important to me. Are these elements present in my speech? Or what I've done is created an authenticity chatbot that people can use and they can chat with that tool and it asks them questions about their values and beliefs. And then they can input a message and have the AI rewrite it in their voice based on the values it has just learned about them. So we're really just at the beginning of being able to use these tools to tap into our authenticity as opposed to outsource it.
Well, that's interesting because I think of AI, and I don't use it actually that much, as a research tool. It gives me examples of, how transportation systems have changed in metropolitan areas. If I'm talking to a client like that, I don't really use it to write things, or certainly haven't ever used it to try and write my own voice. I don't even know if that appeals to me. But I mean, clearly it's a powerful tool, right? If you want to go that far with it.
That's right. You can use it in incredible ways. My goal is to understand where are the boundaries of what I think is acceptable and helpful, and where do we need to be careful of? Because if we're using it to just not have to think about it and just outsource that whole process to an AI, then what it comes back with is going to be very cookie cutter, very generic. And I believe anytime you communicate with an audience, even if it's just one-on-one, your goal is to build trust. And the more you put technology in the middle of that process, the more you're going to dilute the trust. So I'm looking at it as a way to help you hone your best self, even when you're feeling at your worst, as opposed to just having the AI take care of it for you.
If you're enjoying this conversation and want to bring insights like these to your next event, visit lindanazareth.com to book Linda Nazareth as your keynote speaker. Linda is an economist and futurist, and she is a dynamic and experienced speaker who has presented to audiences across a broad range of industries on the megatrends shaping the economy and the future of work. That's lindanazareth.com, or send an email to speaking@lindanazareth.com.
What other things should leaders be thinking about? Because they are using some of this generated data, generated examples, maybe some of the phrasing. How do they still put themselves into this?
They have to fact check everything that the AI comes back with. I like to say treat it as an unverified source. That's a term that I've heard people use that I really appreciate, because it's a predictive mechanism, which means it's generating the next likely word in a sentence. So any data, facts, stories that it returns with, you're going to have to do your own work to identify, is it accurate? And then, is it authentic? And I think about a billboard test. So if whatever the AI comes back with, would you be comfortable with this being on a billboard in your hometown next to your name and photo? And that's the test that it has to pass before we roll it out on a general level, because ultimately you're responsible for the words that come out of your mouth or from under your moniker publicly.
I'm asking everyone I interview this question. How do you think AI will change the number of jobs? Never mind how to change the job, but you're talking about work that used to be done by a corporate communications department or agency or whatever. Obviously, some of it's being done by AI now. Is it going to supplement what they've been doing, or is it going to replace, change?
You've done great work in this area, because I know you had a podcast on this exact topic recently that I really appreciated. I don't believe anyone knows for certain the way in which AI is going to displace jobs, as in, yes, it's going to be responsible for some jobs going away, and it's going to be responsible for new jobs as well. Nobody knows what those numbers are. I do believe that as we use AI in terms of the efficiency that it brings our work, we'll be able to do more with less, which means companies have a choice of whether or not they want to do more with less employees and more AIs, but then at the same time, individuals can use those AIs to be more supercharged so they can do more. So this is an enormous conversation that has to happen, not just at every company level, but as a societal level as well. What are we doing to help people harness this and make this transition, as jobs are absolutely going to change?
I know you think that AI can really add to what people do. If you look 5 years out, what do you see changing about work, but changing how leaders do this? I mean, do you think it'll be, in what ways will things be better? And how will people be communicating better?
I would like to think that within the next few years, and 5 years is a long time. I think AI years, years are like dog years. I think there's just so much can happen in one particular year. In the next few years, I would like to see us be able to rely on a personalized AI assistant that we choose to trust with certain facts about ourselves and goals that we have. And then that AI can be a tool that we rely on to, as a thought partner, to help us streamline the decisions that we make, that remove so much of the friction that leaders face in their day, even just trying to find a photo on their computer from an event that nobody else has. We waste so much of our time. I would like to see us offload that friction to AI systems that can do that for us, so that they free us up to do the creative, empowering, inspirational work that we love to do, which make our lives easier.
Okay. I'll ask you another question. This is 2025. We're 5 years past the lockdowns and people coming back to work, remote work. Leaders have gone through a lot. You're talking to them. What else are you noticing about how things have changed?
There's so much that's changed. We look at even simply attire in the workplace has changed. We noticed how after COVID, people started wearing more sneakers and letting go of the ties. Now I'm seeing ties come back in. So what I find is, as the return to office policies change, attire changes, communication changes, what I see now more than ever is this increasing pace of change and uncertainty, whether it's political uncertainty, economic, market-based uncertainty, technological uncertainty. Leaders are increasingly having to lead with less and less information, or less accurate information. And so if our confidence comes from having all the information, our confidence is going out the window and it's not coming back. So we have to find confidence in other ways and be able to manage this uncertainty and still not let it reduce our impact as leaders.
I mean, AI and technology in general has added to stress levels, right? Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. I feel stressed personally when I wake up in the middle of the night and I think about the pace of change, how much I'm able to catch up or to keep up with. And as I think about the potential for job disruption, it absolutely keeps me up at night and makes me want to be more involved in whatever I can do to help society manage this transition, so that everyone benefits from it, as opposed to just those few people who are making the decisions about AI, because it's going to affect every single person on our planet.
Okay, well, let's leave with your advice to leaders and people who want to be leaders, who will be one way or another guiding organizations. What are the qualities they should be developing themselves now, and what else should they be thinking about?
I really appreciate the idea that education should not end once we finish our undergraduate degree or even graduate school. I believe education should be a constant activity that leaders engage in, because we have to keep learning in order to be able to make sense of all the change that's happening. So whatever you're uncertain about, that's something to do a mini research project about, listen to a podcast about, to build up a baseline level of knowledge. I would also be thinking about, what are the problems that you're facing in your day-to-day, first on an individual level. And I even like to ask AI how I can use AI to alleviate some of those problems that I'm dealing with individually. Leaders cannot outsource this to the IT team or the HR team that's leading change management. It has to start from the top. And so it's up to leaders to dive into these new tools to become at least competent in them so that they can effectively guide their teams.
And another question I've been asking a lot. Are you an optimist, Allison?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's leave it at that.
Yes.
Allison, thanks so much for talking to me today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for highlighting such an important topic.
Allison Shapira is an executive advisor and keynote speaker.
Thanks for listening to Work in the Future. If today's episode sparked ideas for your organization, reach out. I would love to help you shape the future of work at your next event. To discuss your event and book me as a speaker or moderator, please visit lindanazareth.com or email speaking@lindanazareth.com. You can also visit me on Instagram at Linda Nazareth Keynote Speaker and send me a direct message there. If you did like this discussion about the future of work, please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Also, your reviews really help people to find us, so please make sure you take time to leave one wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, thank you to Stokely Audio for audio production.